Yeah, you know who it is, your boy Jadakiss. You probably think you know my brothers. It's the real. You seen them around. You heard them. You witnessed them interviewing the top prestigious artists and athletes and things of that nature, but there's a whole heap of things you definitely probably don't know. We gonna get into that. This is part one right here, 2007 to 2009. Before August 2007, Eric and Jeff Rosenthal were two Jewish brothers who obsessed over hip-hop from afar, living at their parents' house 30 minutes north of New York City. They were young creatives. Jeff spent a year working for HBO. Eric was fresh off of documenting Kanye West, Missy Elliott, and Jim Jones. Together, Eric and Jeff felt like they had something to add in the rap world, their perspective. They had a half-hour hip-hop TV show idea in mind, part interviews, part live music, and part sketch comedy. But there were no takers and no connections, so they'd take things into their own hands, creating hip-hop sketch comedy videos with only the help of local friends and family. Eric and Jeff's parents didn't know what they were creating, nor to what end, but they knew there was a special energy. The first video they ever made was called Deconstructing Biggie, where they took the lyric, "You're mad cause my style you're admiring.
Oh, you know this.
Don't be mad, UPS is hiring."
There you go.
Know what I mean? And looked at it from the UPS driver's perspective, who hated it, and the FedEx and DHL guys, who absolutely loved it. The video went viral, but the key was to deliver the next week and the week after that. It's the Real would be based around consistency and quality, treating it like a real TV program, even if there was no money coming in. As Eric and Jeff moved to the Upper West Side of Manhattan, the voice became more distinctive and videos more adventurous. They were routinely celebrated and promoted across the biosphere.
Blogosphere.
The blogosphere. He made up a word, the blogosphere. You know what I mean? Led by Nah Right and Miss Info. In short order, artists started to reach out to be a part of the fun. Bun B, Cameron, The Clips, Nick Cannon, Max B, Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boys, among others. For 3.5 years, It's The Real was appointment viewing on Monday mornings. The rest of the week and the weekend, you can find Eric and Jeff at every listening party, video shoot, and get together from uptown to deep in Brooklyn, mixing with artists, bloggers, OGs, and interns. They took odd jobs to pay the rent. They walked for miles when they couldn't afford subway fare, but they always had the long game in mind. Until the end of 2009 when things quickened up. First, Twitter exploded on the scene, making It's The Real timely videos feel like old news. And then Eric and Jeff lost their spark when their dad Steve died of cancer only 6 weeks after his diagnosis. It's The Real would need a rest and a reset. That's some real shit. This is interesting, that shit, dog. Word to mother. I bet you P and Luke's gonna be like, they lying. Listen, when did this done? How y'all stole somebody's life story? I got Kiss up there reading. You got Kiss reading G. Depp's life story. Okay, let's get it. Part 2. 2010 to 2012. Eric and Jeff didn't exactly grow up with MTV. They didn't even have cable in the house until high school. But MTV's influence, whether at friends' houses or at grandma and grandpa's, was undeniable. Yo MTV Raps, Rock and Jock, the VMAs, TRL, or directly in the middle of popular culture, just not in 2010. When MTV's digital arm reached out to It's The Real to do short-form interviews on red carpets, Eric and Jeff turned them down. MTV was home to reality TV, and plus they weren't trained journalists. Turns out MTV was looking for just that, something different. To check in, featured Eric and Jeff's unique, quick-fire humor and absurdist questions alongside everyone from Stevie Wonder to Dwayne Wade, J. Cole to Sarah Bareilles. The laughs and ridiculousness cut through, and of course, It's the Real's trademark AKAs, which debuted in a sketch video in 2008, not only became their calling card, but added explosiveness whenever an artist would walk up.
By the way, you know that.
That was crazy. A clear difference between the guys and traditional outlets. At the same time, Eric and Jeff were introduced early to the world of podcasting, co-hosting the show for 1 year with people like A-Track, Bobby Moynihan, Hannibal Buress, Just Blaze, Angela Yee, and more came over to Eric and Jeff's apartment to deep dives through their careers. That was where Combat Jack would first be introduced to the idea of a podcast. As Eric and Jeff grew their brand and evolved from outsiders to insiders, they were invited to perform at the Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival. Both their original music on stages as well as conducting interviews with everyone from Questlove to Feist, Mac Miller, Alice Cooper, David Koechner,
He's from Anchorman,
and Travis Scott. Wow. In their travels from LA to Orlando, Austin to Chicago, Manchester, Tennessee to New York, Eric and Jeff could feel their authenticity and originality resonating with those inside the business and out. It's the Real was ready to add more to the culture on bigger stages and on the bigger screens. Part 3, 2013 to 2015. Appearing in the New York Times is a statement. It means legitimacy and credibility no matter the time, no matter the date. For It's the Real on April 1st, 2013, a front page article in the New York Times art section was no April Fool's joke. It signified a huge piece of a rollout that they'd observed major labels do for their artists and now cultivated themselves. For Eric and Jeff's first official mixtape, Urbane Outfitters Volume 1, they teamed with DJ Drama to present it. They had a listening party sponsored by Ciroc at Diddy's studio, and they really rapped alongside Bun B, Freeway, Mano, Lil Jon, Hannibal Buress. It's the Real put years of work to ensure that their flows on songs like Girls with the Dirty Souths and Suns Out, Guns Out were right up there with their comedic fucking chops. Wow. If traditional venues wouldn't book It's the Real, Eric and Jeff would go to Gansevoort Hotel in NYC and put on back-to-back shows called the Yolono Tour. That's some crazy niggas. Yolono Tour. You only live one night only. That's hard. It's the Real's productivity and profile had never been higher, so opportunities like guesting on Mac Miller's MTV show were a natural progression. MTV was going through a sea change themselves. They recognized hip-hop's place at the center of pop culture and made a big push to partner with notable voices in developing groundbreaking programming. Those voices included Charlamagne the God, Deezus and Mero, and yes, It's the Real. Eric and Jeff had planned and plotted for years to make a scripted TV show that was true to the hip-hop world that they revered and knew so intimately. And with the promises of the show not being watered down and still living on the biggest platform, MTV stood as the perfect partner. Until it wasn't. The executive who bought the show left the network 7 days after. Damn! A series of new bosses circled through. None of them shared an interest in hip-hop or comedy. MTV's corporate parent, Viacom, dove into a gigantic merger with CBS, and all of the development ground to a halt. Wow. The pilot script was not picked up. All of It's the Real momentum had been lost, if not for one suggestion. During the negotiations for the sale of the TV show, Eric and Jeff had been prodded to start a new podcast in an effort to keep their names and voices in the atmosphere. Hesitant at first, they'd already done a podcast, and now everyone else was starting. They relented, figured it'd be a waste of time. They were wrong. Part 4, 2016 to 2018. The initial idea for a waste of time with It's The Real was that Eric and Jeff would invite artists over to their Upper West Side apartment for a dinner, party-style conversation. But after the distribution company mistakenly sent out a press release announcing the podcast as a dinner party and the internet went crazy for the idea, Eric and Jeff found themselves cooking sea bass for Miami rapper Gunplay. Wow. The show evolved over hundreds of episodes, in time becoming a must-listen program featuring not just the Rick Rosses and Cardi B's, but also the behind-the-scenes players who make the machines run. Delving deep into both of the human element and the processes of creation, It's The Real's mission was to celebrate the journey of whoever sat in between them, whether it was Drake's dad or Eric and Jeff's mom. Fire. Just as important as consistency and quality have been to It's The Real, so too were maintaining relationships. That trust helped put together a stellar roster of guest appearances for the guys' debut album. Teddy Bear Fresh, in partnership with Empire, Eric and Jeff collaborated with Bun B, Currency, Smoke Dizza, Michael Christmas, Tunji Ige, Angie Martinez, Just Blaze, Combat Jack, rest in peace, and more. And when it came to their sold-out show at SOB's, the concert featured Just Blaze, Freeway, and OG Chase B. With podcasts gaining in popularity and live shows becoming a hot ticket, promoters from Highline Ballroom reached out with an idea to do a one-on-one interview at their venue, but It's The Real wanted to go bigger. How about a dozen people on stage? Eric and Jeff gathered the pillars of Rockefeller Records, Biggs, Hip Hop, Lenny S, Young Guru, Just Blaze, Shaka Pilgrim, Freeway, Young Guns, and Jim Jones, and dynamically recreated the journey of the greatest record label in the history of hip hop. I beg to differ. It was a landmark moment for It's The Real to share stage with their heroes in front of a beyond sold out crowd. Following another successful live show in London, Eric and Jeff returned to the Upper West Side to record an episode of A Wasted Time with the Locks, Me, Chic, and Styles. In an outrageous set of circumstances where I was literally sleeping off an edible at their kitchen table. I don't believe you guys throw that in on me like that. It do me like that. Styles and Chic begin to argue about movies when Eric suggested that they start a podcast. Styles made it clear, no, we'll all start a podcast and call it Two Jews, Two Black Dudes Review the Movies. So we did it. And they didn't even change the name when I woke up. How foul are they? They left it. And the people love it. So we gotta leave it.
It's all facts, right?
All facts. This is fire, dog. How'd you put... See? You turned it... ill.
No, thank you.
Because not just the story's ill. How y'all put that together is crazy.
Oh, man.
The timeline.
Thank you.
Part 5. 2019 up until right now. You know what I mean? It's never gonna end. God willing. Let's get it. As 2019 turned into 2020, there was a lot of good energy around It's The Real. After appearances by Jack Harlow and Cameron and Lizzo, not to mention their third annual 12 Days of Podcasts, publishing a dozen shows in the dozen days leading up to Christmas. Eric and Jeff look forward as A Wasted Time crossed 300 episodes. Two Jews and Two Black Dudes an organic melding of two sets of best friends who grew up under opposite circumstances just 10 minutes from each other, had blossomed thanks to the most unexpected and side-splittingly funny stories shared on air. The podcast was on a great streak, producing weekly episodes based around films like Groundhog Day, Parasite, and Knives Out. But just a couple months into the new year, after boarding their plane back from a work trip to Miami, Eric and Jeff's attention went from the monitors showing overseas COVID reports on CNN to passengers in hazmat outfits, Lysol in their seats, and thought, it's time to switch things up. It's the Real Weekly Podcast. Their bread and butter were the antithesis. How you say it?
Antithesis.
Antithesis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the Real Weekly Podcast. Their bread and butter were the opposite of COVID protocol. They can no longer invite people to their living room for hour-and-a-half open-air conversations. They immediately pivoted and the next day launched Quarantine Radio, the original Quarantine Radio, a daily audio and visual podcast where Eric and Jeff would get 3 friends on the phone, each for a 20-minute check-in for 90 straight days. These conversations provided some sanity and humor for those on both sides of the phone and for everyone locked indoors and tuned in. But it was completely exhausting, and Eric and Jeff decided to take 1 week off. Their goal, to take a breath and figure out what they really wanted to do, and just importantly, what they didn't want to do. Amongst the ideas that came to them, Eric and Jeff quietly started work on a project they expected to take 2 months, which grew to 6 months, then grew to a year, and finally 2 years. It's a project that combines all of the talent, history, and credibility that the guys have built up since August of 2007. And the guys are excited to make some announcements soon. So as we start the next 15, here's the more originality, more authenticity, and of course, more laughs. Yeah! Shout out to my brothers, man, on a solid 15. And let's go for another 15.
You're the best.